We have a different type of look at the wide world of tech because Gray Scott is here, futurist and techno-philosopher. I mean, he knows everything in the world of the, what was it called, the society that you were part of?
World Future Society.
And I know that this is something you've been doing for over a decade, right?
Yes, yeah.
A long time. So now, I mean, are you even surprised by what you see in 2019?
I think futurists have been talking about this for about 30 to 40 years in depth when we talk about the future of AI and those kinds of things. I mean, futurists like Isaac Asimov, who've been writing science fiction stories about the future of AI. And science fiction is really a forecast. You have to remember that. So some of those scenarios that were 40 years ago, that were written 40 years ago, are coming true today.
Before I talk about the things that we know about, right, like Intel and you mentioned Microsoft and Amazon and some great things in the pipeline.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the futurists talking about that we should be looking at 10 years or 20 years from now?
Well, one of the things that really shocked me, you asked about being shocked. I think the idea of being future shocked by Elon Musk's idea of Neuralace and implanting a chip inside of the brain. It's really shocking when you discover what that will enable us to do in the future. And a lot of what we're talking about today, the affective computing and the cognitive computing, emotional computing, all of these companies that are working towards being able to use the body and the emotion as the user interface. So no longer will you have this pad in the future, you're going to have, your brain is going to be the user interface. Your emotions will be the user interface.
It's amazing. So I know you were talking about emotion, using the eyes, right? Shopping apps, all kinds of recognition, the Google lenses. Which one should we talk about first? Which one is front and center for you?
Well, I think Microsoft is working on a project called HUE, which it basically stands for Human Understanding and Empathy. That's actually something we need a lot more of in technology, is empathy. And you're starting to see companies move more towards that. The companies are now realizing that they can't just create a product that serves a need for a customer. They have to understand the customer down into the psychological level, the emotional level, because that's how we make our decisions. So it's also about, Nicole, it's also about understanding ourselves better. I've said, my prediction was that the future is a portal inward, that we would know ourselves better than we ever have, and that's what's happening.
So do you think Elon Musk is a genius?
I do. I think he's, not only is he a genius, I think he's brave. And I think when you're in this emerging technology space, you have to be very brave.
I see Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Intel. Talk about one of the others. How about Intel, RealSense?
So RealSense is interesting because RealSense is a device that can be used on top of applications. So in the future, we're going to see a RealSense device maybe embedded into a pair of wearable glasses, right? So as you and I are talking in 10 years from now, we're going to be wearing smart glasses, and I'm going to be able to read your emotions, and you're going to be able to read my emotions. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a deeper contextual conversation.
Right.
And that trickles out into retail. It trickles out into people who need to understand their customers better. And a great example of this is with the RealSense technology, we can scan our world constantly.
And I think it's going to be healthcare and autos and aviation and absolutely everything we do. One thing that concerns me is that teenagers sit around a table and nobody talks. They don't understand emotions. They don't know how to have conversations. They don't know how to react or have that empathy. Does that change in the future?
It does, because we move from looking down to looking at each other in the future.
Right.
And that's why cognitive computing and affective computing, emotional computing, that's why investors have to understand that this is a real thing and it's coming. Not only is it coming quickly, it changes what it means to produce computers in the future. So the user interface is not a keyboard in the future. I agree with you that we have raised a generation of children that are focused on a 2D screen. But now we're about to raise a generation, this new generation, the emotive sort of generation, emotional computing generation, where they're looking at each other and getting much more information than we've ever had before.
That'll be great. Are you a gadget guy too? I have 6 seconds.
Not really. My interest is more in the philosophy of the technology.
All right, and I think it's cool. May we be a better generation, every generation. Gray Scott, futurist and techno-philosopher with a really great look in the future.